Have Western video games always been political? Should American video games be weaponized to impose morals and inject their political and social issues into the rest of the world? These are the questions raised with newer modern releases game, particularly from the West, as most of it heavily emphasizes and features pushing modern-day Western identity politics. The purpose of this essay will focus on the questions: are modern games pushing American propaganda, and should they be utilized to inject morals and ideology? Propaganda took many forms, including print media, poster, films, and broadcast. Video games are also a form of media consumed worldwide, and it is inevitable that they will be used for propaganda in one way or another. To understand how this occurs, we must look at historical context of American propaganda. During the Cold War, a period of intense ideological rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, propaganda was a key tool. This period lasted from the end of World War II in 1945 until the collapse of Soviet Union in 1991. It was categorized by ideological, economic, and geopolitical struggles, with both sides vying for global influence. While the key aspects of the Cold War included nuclear arms race, space race, and proxy war, more importantly and noticeably, what we can see today is the propaganda and ideological battle, where both superpowers use propaganda to shape public perceptions and promote their ideologies. The US ultimately emerged victorious as they demonstrated their technological and military superiority through events like the space race and the development of advanced military technology. This showcased the benefits of the American system and its capacity to lead in innovations against communism. By promoting democracy, individual freedom, and capitalism, the United States effectively communicated its values. Hollywood's portrayal of the American lifestyle, with its glamorous wealth and consumerism, captivated audiences worldwide. This depiction of the American dream and anti-communism was both aspirational and influential, resonating with many people who were living under authoritarian regimes and inspiring hope for those who seeking a better future. Fast forward a few decades, and the influence of American cultures on the rest of the world become evident. In nearly every country, the drive for wealth and consumerism is apparent. Billboards and advertisements dominated TV screens, highway and streets, the embodiment of the American dream. These ideologies also seep into video games. The Grand Theft Auto series, for example, while often satirical, this game depicted the pursuit of wealth and powers in a fictionalized version of America, albeit through unconventional means. Games that include anti-communist sentiment also appear in games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Metal Gear Solid. Historically, video games have always been political, reflecting the state of the world without overly preaching any particular ideologies. As technology advanced and became more affordable, the internet made it easier for people worldwide to access information about any country's culture, including news, social issues, and political events. That was when the perception of the United States started shifting. Everyone in the world started to realize that America, a magical place where dreams come true, as perceived in the media, was nothing but a false promise, a mere illusion to keep the clock running. With economic inequality, political and social issues, and various economic challenges. As we became more interconnected, the need for traditional propaganda diminished. People started to choose what works best for their countries and move on. In order to evolve, America has shifted its narrative in what it portrays in the media, from portraying the American dream to focusing on individualism. It's no longer just about material success, but also about personal fulfillment, self-discovery, and individual expressions. Audiences are more engaged with character-driven stories, offering deeper emotional connection and more compelling arcs, which are essential for engaging today's viewer. Authentic, relatable characters are valued over idealized representation, reflecting the complexity and realities of modern society. In the realm of video games, story-rich titles like The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2, and God of War 2018 have garnered critical acclaim, attracting even those who were previously uninterested in gaming. While some believe that this direction American medias have taken is enough, it certainly is not enough for the progressive people living in the United States. From around 2019 onwards, American media began to focus more on diversity, equity, and inclusion, reflecting the current diverse society and showcasing the benefits of a multicultural country. This direction of more inclusivity is definitely positive in the US. However, problems arise when other countries' cultures and history are involved. Many stories and characters in American media are centered around American experiences, which can overshadow international perspectives and voices. This can make non-American audiences feel excluded or misrepresented and even perceived as cultural imperialism. Moreover, movies, documentaries, and other forms of entertainment sometimes play around with or plagiarize other countries' history and cultures to support American ideologies of multiculturalism. A recent example of these issues is the soon-to-be-released game Assassin's Creed. The game controversially features an African-American man as a legendary samurai and a liberator of Japan during the Sengoku period, a time of civil war. Despite the lack of historical evidence supporting this portrayal, Ubisoft, a French company, has marketed the game as historically accurate. This rewriting of another country's histories has led some Japanese patriots to speculate that it is deliberate Western propaganda aimed at encouraging more immigration to Japan, pushing them toward becoming a multicultural society like the West. Today, audiences are more aware and vocal about representation and cultural sensitivity. What might be acceptable in the US and other Western countries can be seen as offensive elsewhere. Instead of addressing these issues, critic concerns are often dismissed as plain racism, sexist, homophobic, etc. While other countries are trying to promote their culture and strengthen their economy, the United States instead is trying to push for multiculturalism. In the meantime, they themselves and other Western countries are facing an immigration crisis and in the risk of erasing their own culture. This type of propaganda is ineffective without proper regulation. The complexity deepens when they are promoting and trying to normalize gender identity and ideologies suggesting that a person could be born in the wrong body, leading to the idea of gender transitioning. This concept is taught in school to children and supported by the media and journalists. In some American states, even allowing minors to undergo gender reassignment surgery. While some European countries also endorse these ideologies, it is clear that it first originated from and is heavily promoted in the United States. This issue is plaguing modern Western games. Evidently, in one of the game releases this year, Dragon Age the Vanguard, the game was heavily criticized because of the change in narrative and tone, often feel like it's targeted toward children. At a certain point, the game attempts to educate players about identity politics. As you progress in the game, the situation deteriorates with a cutscene that includes tutorials on how to apologize for misgendering someone who identifies as neither male nor female, an ideology unfamiliar to many throughout the history of humankind. This segment not only seems unnecessary but also fuels the perception of an intentional agenda. A discussion on Steam highlighted Dragon Age the Vanguard's use of non-existent words in the German language, both in written and spoken context, such as inclusive pronouns like hen, hem, translate to they, them. These pronouns are not recognized in the German language, leading critics to argue that their inclusion is an attempt to impose American cultural norms, which is the exact same complaint as last year with Spider-Man 2 and the creation of non-existent inclusive word in Spanish. This combined with the inclusion of transgender characters and themes has led to accusation of injecting propaganda into games and marketing it globally. This specific agenda manifests through effort to teach men, women, and children about identity politics and alter historical narrative. Returning to a core question, should American video games be weaponized to impose morals and inject their political and social issues into the rest of the world? The act of injecting political and social issues onto the rest of the world with video games is filled with ethnical, cultural, and practical concerns. While video games are a powerful medium for storytelling and can reflect societal values, weaponizing them for ideological purposes can lead to several negative consequences. Firstly, cultural imperialism is a significant issue. Utilizing video games to impose American morals and political issues on other cultures can be seen as imposing values. It disregards the diversity of global cultures and their unique values and perspective. This approach can lead to resentment and resistance, as other cultures may feel their values and traditions are being undermined or disrespected. It's easy to overlook how people outside one immediate circle might think, but it's crucial to be mindful of different perspectives, especially when marketing products internationally. Creating non-existing words in other language and altering history can be seen as extending American influence and can be perceived as disrespectful, leading to the erosion of local cultures and traditions. Secondly, there are ethnical concerns. Using video games for ideological purposes raised questions about manipulation and propaganda, blurring the line between entertainment and indoctrination. The immersive natures of video games can subtly influence players' beliefs and attitudes. Modern games are highly immersive, capable of invoking a range of emotions through gameplays and storytelling. This engagement can make players more susceptible to presented messages and values, particularly if they are unaware of the intentional influence, especially in games targeting children. Lastly, global backlash is a considerable risk. Despite knowing Western games are sold internationally, some companies fail to acknowledge this, leading to complaints about cultural appropriation or cultural imperialism. This lack of acknowledgement has led to American and other Western games either barely breaking even or facing significant financial losses. Games companies must recognize that global audiences are not passive and will not accept anything without scrutiny. Using video games to push certain morals and political ideas can feel like manipulation, where players' beliefs are influenced without their knowledge. It also risks imposing one culture's values on other, which isn't fair. It feels as though one Western country is trying to tell the rest of us how to live our lives. In summary, yes, Western video games appear to be pushing propaganda. By going in depth of the history of propaganda in video games, we see that throughout the years, players are not angry about games that have political theme. Players are angry because games are trying to inject political ideology. What a lot of people worldwide have realized through technologies and social media, recognize that these ideologies do not necessarily benefit their economy, only further fuel hatred and resentment. Video games are supposedly a place for escapism. Players around the world expect engaging story, exciting gameplay, and an escape from everyday life. Not a place for discussing politics, nor a place of discussing the virtues and prosperity brought by multiculturalism, especially when these narratives don't align with the realities in many Western countries. That's about it. Just before you go, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot and it would motivate me to make more videos like this. Okay, see ya.